everyone, and welcome to On Sprue Review. My name is Violet Sun, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Dominion Zephon, a limited edition model made by Games Workshop for the Horus Heresy line. This model was released as part of the 2022 Black Library celebration, but at the time of filming is still available. With all the excitement around the upcoming new edition of the Horus Heresy rules, and of course the models that are going to be coming with it, I thought I'd take a look at what could possibly be a very sneaky preview of those lovely Mark VI Marines. First, let's take a look at the box. Now obviously this has got a really nice image of the studio miniature as the focus, background, some buildings and some added composited on fire effects. I think it's a really nice box. I think from recent models this is probably my favourite. It's not the most clear as to what the mini exactly looks like, but it really gives you the feel of Dominion Zephon here flying into battle. And of course, if you want a clear look at the model, the back of the box has got you covered there. Another really nice picture of the studio miniature, and a couple of close-ups, including one of the alternative head. This box also has some painting instructions on the outside. Only the very most basic paints that you would need, but it's a good place to start, especially if someone's picking this me up as, you know, maybe one of their first purchases. Having the paints on the outside of the box is very helpful because it helps them pick up the paints at the same time. As boxes go, this is definitely a good one. But let's have a look at what you get inside. And here's what you get in your box. Of course, your sprue, 40mm base, and your instructions. These are black and white, much like the ones that came with Fafnir. By the way, if you want to have a look at a review of the other miniature that was released in this line for the Black Library celebration, I've got a video already reviewing him. Should be a link up in this corner. If there's not a link up in that corner because YouTube's moved them, it'll be on my channel. Let's have a look at these instructions. Pretty basic, just black and white images of how you put it together, miniature together. There are 4 whole steps, but quite a few sub-steps within those. I don't think this is a particularly challenging model. Obviously I haven't put mine together yet, but most of the construction seems quite simple. This model is 23 parts plus his base, sort of. There are actually 24 parts on the sprue, but one of those is the optional head. And you're probably only going to stick one head on this guy. You could trim away the base of the helmet and stick it on his belt as an extra detail if you're going for the bear head. Or I guess you could put the helmet head and have the bear head hanging from his belt, but that's probably a little too chaotic for Horus Heresy era Blood Angels at least. Unlike many of Games Workshop's 40k miniatures, there are no rules included in the instructions for this guy. They were released as a PDF on the Warhammer community website, which I hope is still there if you are looking for them. If not, I'm sure there will be one on the internet to back them up. And with that, let's take a little look at the sprue. Now, I want to take a little look at the parts of this figure that are going to be most indicative of what we're going to get with the new Mark VI power armor. I thought I'd start with the chest here. This has the very obvious and distinctive Mark VI Y-shaped power cabling on the front of the chest. Now this version has some extra detailing on that cabling. There are these little round details on each segment of the kind of armoured cable, which looks pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to be a common detail. I think that's probably something special to help mark out Zephon as an extra special character. One thing I'm not sure if I can. One thing that's quite obvious in person that I don't know if it's coming across in camera is the chest kind of has an angle to it. So this being quite a rounded, flat piece, about this point, there's quite a sharp kind of top and bottom to it. I really don't know if I can get it to show up in camera, but you can kind of see it. This is very different to the currently in production Mark 6 armour, but does to me seem very evocative of the original RTB01 bodies that also had that kind of pectoral almost kind of shape to the plastron of the armour. And since I've mentioned the venerable beaky marine, let's have a look at Zephon's helmet. This is quite a nicely sculpted piece. He's got a lot of elaborate detail on the upper piece here. But other than that, it looks much like Mark 6 helmets that we've been getting since kind of the 3rd edition box set with that resculpt of the plastic Space Marine. This has even got the same classic round ball joint on the bottom of the head sculpt to let you put this helmet on any other miniature or any other standard Space Marine helmet or head on this miniature. Something I rather enjoy. Another very characteristic part for Mark 6 and the previous Mark 5 armour are these riveted shoulder pad pieces with these studs. I think in universe it's where they bonded extra armour over the top of a regular shoulder pad. That's just a cool extra detail. This shoulder pad has been moulded in 2 pieces. I don't think this is going to be standard for the other Mark 6 kit, but this is a very interesting choice to actually get these studs to look good. Games Workshop's produced this kind of shoulder pad many times as a single piece, and you always end up with these studs at the corners on the very edge ending up kind of smeared. They end up teardrop shaped and not round like the rest. Now you definitely improve the look of those other shoulder pads with a little bit of cleanup, but this being moulded in 2 parts means you don't have to. You do have to glue the 2 pieces together, but you're going to get your glue out to stick this on anyway. So I think this is a really smart move. Zephon is a veteran of the Great Crusade and ends up on Terra due to some pretty grievous wounds. And as such, this model has quite a lot of bionic parts, including one of his legs. So I only have one Mark 6 style leg to show you. Although this is quite an interestingly detailed and very similar like to the single image we've had from Games Workshop of the Mark 6 from the new Heresy box. It has this very big foot and just very nice detailing overall. The back on this one does have a little bit of a kind of a lip for the detailing on the front, but I don't think that's going to be common to the other Mark 6s. I think this is kind of a unique little bit of detail for this model. And since I've already mentioned his Bionics, let's have a look at his bionic leg. This is really packed full of detail, and I'm sure if you're a painter that really want to get the most out of this model, pieces like this are really going to allow you to go to town with doing some very fancy metallic works to make these unusual details stand out. It also has a big chunk of masonry that's part of how this model looks so energetic, leaping off this piece of broken building to give him sort of a bit of the essence of flight from his jump pack. And one of his other bionic limbs, his left arm, is absolutely covered in these little blood drops, such a common detail on Blood Angels figures. I think it looks absolutely fabulous here. One of the most technically impressive pieces on this kit has got to be the sword. Managing to cast this incredibly long, pretty sturdy sword with all of these little tiny cuts all the way through the fuller. It might not make a ton of sense from a practical sword swinging standpoint, but I think that looks really cool. And to do something like that must have been quite tricky. And I think it's pretty nice, a really nice in this kit. Now, I've read a couple of books with Dominion Zephon in, and I don't think it's actually mentioned in either of the ones I've read that he's an ex-member of a destroyer unit, but I'm taking from these markings that are very distinctly from the Heresy destroyer unit that he must have been. And these show up in quite a few places, obviously on the top jump pack here, on one of his Volkite pistol holsters, but strangely not on his shoulder pads. Obviously I've looked at the studded pad already. His other pad is a winged skull, which obviously is a symbol of Imperials in the Horus Heresy. But it's interesting that he doesn't have his chapter symbol or his squad type symbol, and instead has this very obvious declaration of his loyalty to the Emperor. And it does actually have a tiny little destroyer symbol hanging off the bottom. Now, Blood Angels are known for their ferocity, but they're also known for being somewhat artistic. And I think this armour really shows it off. The belt buckle here has this very fine filigree. There was some on the helmet. This pistol holster has some really nice laurel wreath work with a blood drop and a chalice. This teeny tiny part that is knee pad for his bionic leg. Again, blood drop with loads of little tight filigree. I think that's quite a nice depiction of the Legion's artistic side on such a otherwise pretty brutal model. Now, I quickly brushed over the jump pack earlier, looking at this destroyables, but let's take a closer look because I think this is quite an interesting bit of design. First of all, it's a new pattern of jump pack. We haven't had anything quite like this. It's very, very similar to the style of jump pack that's been common in 40k for a long time, but isn't quite the same. And it's very different to the style of jump pack we've had for the Horus Heresy. I'm hoping this is a style of jump pack we will see with more figures, and particularly the way it's been broken down in parts here. We've got two main pieces, which are the main backpack piece and a top piece. And then we have these two smaller pieces, kind of cone and fan blades and other little details that go inside the main thrusters of the jack. So much more detail than we've had previously on plastic Space Marine jump packs. And then two more tiny little nozzles that also go on the backpack. I think these are kind of secondary thrusters. Now, these might be a little bit fiddly for some modelers. I think they're definitely going to be a part that you're going to have to be careful when removing it from the sprue, that it doesn't go flying into the void, never to be seen again. But it's nice to see this level of detail, and the designer going to the effort of putting these as separate pieces to retain the kind of directional detail that you wouldn't get if the backpack had been moulded as just two pieces as we've had previously with plastic Space Marine jump packs. And here's a look at the kind of front intakes of the jetpack. They're not quite the same as the kind of square, blocky ones that we've seen on, I guess, what you could probably call the Mark 7 power arm jump pack. But I quite like it. It's an interesting blend between what we've seen previously, whilst in a new design. I think one of the only pieces I haven't yet spoken about is the head sculpt for this model. It's a very characterful and obviously Blood Angels looking head with a pair of pretty obvious fangs. I'm sure that he has to maybe hide those a little bit around Terra. I quite like this face. It's got a lot of character to it. His hair not being perfectly in place is kind of unusual, but would think a Space Marine rushing around in battle might, have a few flyaway strands. I don't know if I'm going to use this or the helmet on this model. I think I might go with the helmet because it makes a little bit more sense if you're jumping around at high speeds to, maybe wind off your face and out of your eyes. But I do really like this head, and if I don't use it here, I'm going to use it on something else. Now, the only other little bits that we've not looked at are kind of connective pieces that you don't really see in the model. Got his hips and groin plate. Not a whole lot to say about it. Quite nicely modelled texture on the under, as you get with Space Marines of kind of all vintages. It's a functional piece that holds his legs on. And we've got the back of the torso as well. Continuation of the power cables from the front. A different back joint. There seems to be an ever-increasing number of different ways to hold backpacks onto Space Marine torsos. I can kind of see why this has been done on this model, because there are some cables coming through and they wanted to add that detail. It does make it a bit of a pain if you want to do something different. If you wanted to convert this model and put a standard backpack on, you're going to have to do a bit of work to chop and change this to make it fit a normal backpack joint. If you're doing a conversion, you might not be that bothered by that amount of work. But it's kind of easy enough to make this into a standard Space Marine backpack joint. I mean, you probably have to change the design on the back of the backpack a little bit to make it all fit again. I don't know. This is my only gripe with this mini, is that it's not a stack pack joint. And that's a pretty small gripe to be having. So it's reached the point in the video where I say what I'm going to do with this figure. I'm just going to build him as is. I have no plans to convert it. I really like it as is. I don't have a Blood Angels army for the Horus Heresy, and I'm not currently planning on building one. So I think this is just going to be a one-off display model, and I think that's perfectly okay to do now and then. I am mostly an army builder myself, but it's fun to just build a kit that you like the look of and not feel the pressure to have to paint another 50 miniatures in the same colour scheme, or a bunch of tanks or whatever. If you have already purchased Dominion Zephon, or if you have an idea for a conversion, I would really love to hear your suggestions in the comments. If this video has been helpful in any way, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see some more, subscribing to my channel will get you probably at least one a week. I've been pretty consistent so far. Thanks for listening, and happy hobbying.